How's that look? Yeah, maybe. I can join in here. Look, I'm taller, so I kind
You
of
are,
have to,
yeah, you have to.
I have to pretend to be shorter. Let's give it a little bit.
Have you done a lot of these?
I started with podcast interviews, and I did about 10 of those. 8 of them made it, 2 of them didn't. And then on video, I've done 2 or 3 now.
Okay.
And it's kind of a different project, but kind of a similar project. Like, I've had this bug in my ear of like how do artists make money for a very long time, and no one's given me a straight answer. Like, I don't think anyone knows. Like, how do artists make money? And that brings me here on this wonderful,
great day.
misty day. Yeah. So we have Milwaukee in the background.
Yeah.
You beat me here, and you started a painting already, which is great. Do you mind sharing who you are, what you do?
I'm Beth Stoddard. I'm a Milwaukee-based oil painter. I paint from life with a modern sensibility, and I'm working on painting all 169 of the Milwaukee County parks. I'm about a third of the way through that project. I keep returning to the lakefront, however, because it's beautiful, and I think it's a painter's ideal because it's just working with color and the changing effects of weather, particularly a large view of the sky. I sell my work. I'm represented at a gallery. I participate in group shows, and I do about an annual solo show at different venues. And I also teach workshops and privately in my studio, and teach at a paint and sip and do special events for the paint and sip.
Cool. When did you have the focus on art in your life? Or when did that come about?
Early on, I went to art school. I went to study at the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts. I'm originally from Wisconsin, and I went there to study because there's really no other school like it. Its focus is on working from life. So I studied there, got married and started a family, and put the brush down for several years, and I've been back at it for 5 years.
What does working from life mean?
Instead of working from a photograph or purely out of your imagination, it's looking at what you're trying to paint. But even when you're working from life or direct observation, it's part imagination, because especially when you're doing the landscape, things are always changing. So you're constantly making decisions. So it's both observation and invention to make a completed painting that's at least visually interesting, and you would hope beautiful.
So do you make money with art? Do you do art full time?
No, because I teach. I homeschool 2 of my 5 kids, and then I paint. I'm at the easel nearly every day, but only for a couple hours. And then I found that however much time you spend at the easel, you need to do just as much sourcing venues and following through on sales. It seems to be 50-50, even with a small amount of easel time that I have.
And that's 50-50 between like making the art and then kind of the administration of selling the art. Yeah.
Or organizing events where I'm teaching, or workshops or things like that.
What is the thing you like best about what you do?
I like staring at things and trying to represent them on 2D surfaces. I love the challenge of having something that conveys depth, but also is interesting surface-wise in terms of brushwork and edges and the shapes interacting on the picture plane. So I like that tension of depicting deep space and ending up with an object that is in fact flat.
3D on 2D?
Yeah.
Cool. And the biggest challenges? What are some of the things you run into that might be roadblocks?
Doing a series of duds.
Duds?
Yeah. And wondering if you're in a rut or something. But the best advice I've received is just to paint and paint and paint and don't analyze.
Yeah.
And then take a step back. That and keeping motivated when it's been a while since your last sale or a while since your last well-received show, staying motivated in the dry periods.
Series of duds almost sounds like a gallery exhibit, doesn't it? Like, like, welcome to Dana's series of duds. But that kind of hits on something that, like, no matter what you do, or like whoever's watching this, whatever they do, like we're all gonna have series of duds, and some of the most successful people keep moving even though there's a series of duds.
Yeah.
And I suspect that's how you are, because you still have great paintings and you haven't stopped. So how do you move through that series of duds?
Just to not think about it too much and just to show up every day, and can be kind of cathartic to purge and just throw out some old bad stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to throw stuff out at all. So I find that helpful too.
Do you have a purging ritual, like burning or table saw?
No, ooh, both would be really toxic.
Yeah.
Because of the oil paints. No, I just throw them out. So
Fair enough.
yeah, nothing dramatic.
A lot of my focus has been around helping artists make money, and how artists make money with their art. Where do you make the most money, if you were to kind of categorize it? Is it by teaching? Is it by just selling on your own? Is it the shows?
In part because I want it to be this way. It's a little over half sales and a little under half teaching.
Okay.
I don't want it to be over 50 teaching.
Okay.
And part of that has been good fortune, but also trying to focus more on studio work, because in some ways I think the teaching can be, I don't want to say easier money because it isn't easy, but you show up for a class, you teach, you get paid, whereas when you're doing the paintings, you don't know if anyone's going to buy it unless it's a commission, which is lovely. So putting in the hard work at the easel to keep improving, making more art and better quality art. I want to keep it over 50% so I can say I'm an artist who teaches.
Oh, that's good.
Rather than a teacher who paints. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think my strength is in painting, and I want to keep improving on that.
That's cool. So, random things hitting the camera.
I know, yeah.
As long as it's not a whale, we're okay.
Yeah, a narwhal.
Yeah. So, what would you say you need the most help with in your painting and with making money at it?
I know I just need to do better quality work and more of it and get it out there more. I think it's on me, and I think in this season of life with my kids are younger, it's just going to grow gradually, and it has been. The first 2 years I was at a loss. Third year I broke even. Last year and this year I'm making a little more money each year. So if I continue to see that growth, even if it's little, I think I'm on the right track.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people who are probably in their first year of that journey, where they're making art and not making money at it. And a lot of advice that people have given, yourself included, is like, keep going, keep making stuff, keep going forward.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for those folks who are kind of trudging through that part of life?
I think, let's see. Art is a really long game. You can't, I think even 10 years is probably a short time. And it may be that for either reason, circumstantial or talent-wise or motivation-wise, it isn't something to keep going at. I do reassess every year. I think it's been helpful for me to have someone outside the art world, a couple of people that I speak to and say, okay, let's look at this realistically, because I think artists, like anyone in your own niche, your own profession, can be overly optimistic about things or overly prone to commiseration. So I think it's helpful to talk to someone outside the art world. I have a couple people. There's one person in particular I touch base with every year. We're like, okay, how's it going?
Yeah.
You know, is this something you should keep doing? Is this a good use of your time and talent? But when I put the brush down when my kids were young, I couldn't look at art and enjoy it because I'm like, I need to do this, you know? And I was like grinding my teeth at night. Like, I'm not a really tense person, but it was a big lack with the abilities, not that they're great, but the abilities I have and the training I've had. I feel like a burden that I want to have to keep developing it. So for people who are starting out, I think you need to ask, like, do you feel that weight if you ever set it aside, that you really should be doing it? And also check in with someone who's level-headed outside the art world to kind of reassess maybe on an annual basis.
What's something that you're working on right now that is intriguing to you in your art?
I'd like to add figures into my landscapes, and I'd like to work larger more often. I can find the time to work large when I know I'm getting paid for it, when it's a commission. But it's, I think, you know, money is not the sole motivator, but it's definitely a factor, and I'd be foolish to think that it doesn't affect my work ethic. So if I knew or had the time or enough resources saved up, I would work larger and place some figures in the landscape and like with hints of narrative. So that's something I'm looking forward to in the coming years, but probably not in the immediate future.
Okay. I just had a question and it left my head.
Sorry, it's the birds.
It's the birds, I know. And these little leaves that keep
that are
whapping,
flying up from the lake, which is curious, right?
Yeah. I think it's our tree behind us.
Yeah.
Letting it all go. In your work, we're all influenced in some way by someone or some type of art.
Yeah.
Was there any one person or one style of work that was a big influence to you that you feel has like propelled you forward or moved you along?
Probably some maybe a little lesser known painters who worked observationally during the abstract expressionist period in American art. So despite what was hot at the time and is really neat art, and I like looking at it, some painters that worked from life and were at least somewhat representational and not completely abstract. And names are escaping me right now.
That's okay, we can edit it in.
Louisa Matthias Stoddard. What's her husband's name? I forget. Yeah, just some American and European artists. Lovis Corinth in Germany continued to work representationally, but there was still that conversation with what was going on as like the headliner art at the time. It affected what they did as representationally. I think it'll be curious to look back on every period. There's, you know, like the major story in art, and then there's like the smaller story, and what threads continue through maybe at a lower sound, but are still there and are still part of the whole art ecosystem or whole conversation. So I feel like now art is a lot of installation based art and abstract and based on identity, and I think those are conversations that definitely should be happening, but my conversation or what I'm saying, what I'm adding to it is a little different, like seeking the peace and prosperity of the city where I live and promoting its welfare and celebrating it, and that comes from my faith, and adding that to what's going on in Milwaukee. And it really does connect with some people, and not all art is going to connect with everyone, but I think a lot of people who love Milwaukee and love the parks can see that love in what I do, and people are kind of rooting for Milwaukee, and I want this to be a small part of that.
I remember growing up that I never really thought of art or knew of art until, you know, one day at a museum I saw something and my jaw dropped and I sat in front of it for an hour. And you know, after that experience things were a little different.
Yeah.
And I wonder if people are doing that anymore. You know, I wonder if people are more active in looking for art and beautifying their home, or if my experience growing up with a wall of old black and white pictures of the family and senior pictures, with not really any art.
Yeah.
Or you know, I wonder if that's more of the norm.
Yeah, I think I don't have the talent and vision to be someone great, but I know I can be the point of connection for art in people's lives. And I've had some people who have bought a painting or subscribed to the newsletter, and they're like, you bring art into my life, and they appreciate it. But I think with anything in life, you need that person-to-person connection. I think what you just described about really being, drop-jawed at a painting maybe doesn't happen very often or for everyone, but it's a person you know who can introduce you to painting or music or whatever your art form is. And that personal connection is really a bridge.
Do you think it can sell online?
Maybe. I question that because it's so much better seeing things in person. I'm guessing, I don't know, photography is better because there's not that surface factor. Whereas when you see an oil painting or an acrylic painting with texture, it changes the way the light hits it, and it's a different experience.
It almost pulls you in, doesn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. And I think that's part of your skill as a painter, is that you can pull someone in with that, the ink or the oil on the canvas.
I hope so.
So, is there anything that that you can think of that I can do to help? Is there any one thing or set of things, or really anything at all? I'm looking for feedback, and I'm looking for the expert, somebody who's gone through this process of selling her art, and trying to understand where I can help out.
I think what you're doing is trying to connect people to art, so I think that's great. I think for most artists, the goal is to sell work, and to have people connect with their work so much that they want to own it. So I think what you're doing is a good offer of help. See if it pans out and connects people with work.
Yeah, I really hope so. I really hope so.
Your website is nice. A lot of art websites are just terrible.
Thank you.
Sorry, there's nothing so damning as faint praise. No, it's a good, clear website, and it puts the art front and center.
Hopefully it visually aligns with my goals, right?
Yeah.
Like, my goals are trying to help artists front and center.
Yeah.
And it's good to hear that it's come across that way.
Yeah.
Because that's certainly my intention. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I love your art.
Oh, thanks.
I think it's all beautiful, and I hope that there's a way that I can help out.
Yeah. Thank you.